Today, we're starting something new. Well, hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. I am so glad you're here today because today, like I said, we are actually going to start a new segment on this channel that I hope goes on for quite a long time. Some of you that have been watching for a while, you might remember that I used to do verses of the week videos, and then I was making like 4 videos a week, and that was an insane pace. And I've said in the past that I really want to get back to doing some of those videos that are just straight out of the Word. And today we're going to start that with a new segment called Life in the Word. I am so excited for it because as much as I love doing all the topical videos we do about just different biblical ideas and themes and kind of devotional thoughts, I love studying the Bible and getting to share insights with other people. And so that's what we're going to be doing. And today I want to kick off that by starting in the book of Ruth. We're going to go through the book of Ruth, not all of it today because you don't want to watch this video for that long and I could really talk about it for quite a while. So today we are just going to do Ruth chapter 1. And so if you have your Bible, I'd encourage you to turn there. I've got mine and we're going to jump into it. And before we go too far into it, anytime you start studying a new book of the Bible, you should really ask a couple context questions first. The first question to ask is, who wrote it? And unfortunately, in the case of the book of Ruth, you can read through the whole 4 chapters and they never come out and say who it is. The author is anonymous. And throughout history, people have come up with different ideas of who it might be. The most plausible suggestion seems to be that Samuel the prophet wrote it. And this isn't just a guess. This comes from ancient rabbinic tradition going all the way back to some of our oldest strata of the Babylonian Talmuds. If that sounded really pretentious, I read it in a book. I haven't actually read the Babylonian Talmuds. However, today that notion is somewhat challenged by critical scholarship. But if we're being honest, critical scholarship kind of criticizes everything. That's kind of what they do. So we don't know for sure. Samuel's a decent guess, but it really doesn't change our reading of the book. Another thing that is good to ask when you come to a text is, when was this written? And that, luckily, they do answer for us. In the very first verse here in Ruth, it says, in the days when the judges ruled. And as you're reading, that should really just go, oh wait, the Judges. There's like a book called Judges, right? Oh yeah. And so the Judges was a time period from about 1350 to 1051 in which the nation of Israel had no king. And a common theme throughout the book of Judges you find, and the people did what was right in their own eyes, or everyone did what was right in their own eyes. It's a roller coaster of a read as the people go up and down from repentance to sin, and it is just a wild ride. So it's in the midst of that craziness before Israel has a king and while they're up and down that this story is situated. The next question is, where does this take place? And luckily it answers that as well if we just keep reading. Still in verse 1, when it says, in the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land, and a man from Bethlehem and Judah went to sojourn in the country of Moab. And if you've been reading the Bible, this should really send off some signals in your head. The first might be Bethlehem. Isn't there like a "Oh Little Town of Bethlehem" song for Christmas? Right, that's where Jesus was born. In Bethlehem, the Hebrew word actually means town of bread, which is a little ironic because there's a famine there. And then, so you see, they're in Bethlehem and Judah. Judah, that's like where Jerusalem was, okay? And then they go to Moab. Wait, Moab. And if you've been reading the rest of the Old Testament, you might remember that the Israelites and the Moabites, they don't really get along really well. There's some bad blood there. And then it gets even more interesting as when we go on in that first paragraph, we find out that these Israelite men are marrying Moabite women, which would be a real no-go in the Old Testament. That would not have been okay. So instantly we're introduced to this plot tension. And then tragedy strikes. We see these 2 sons, they die, and the father, he dies as well. So we have Naomi, who was widowed with her two daughter-in-laws who are now also widowed, and we see a bleak start to the story. And that is a quick introduction to where I want to get to today. I want to go from about verse 6 to verse 18. So if you want to pause this video right now and read that for yourself, I would highly encourage you to do that. No, like, seriously, do it. But in any case, we're just going to jump in. I'm going to trust that you paused it, you read it, and now you're ready to go. So what I really want to highlight in this story is just one idea. So what we see here is that these two young girls, they've been widowed, and now they are living in the household of a widow, Naomi, who can't take care of them. The situation looks bleak, and so Naomi, she tells the girls, look, go back to your lands, return to your people and to your gods. And at first, both of them, both Ruth and Orpah, say, no, we will stay with you. But Naomi gets real serious with them. And she basically talks them out of staying. She's like, what, am I going to have more kids that you could marry them? Are you going to wait till they're like, no, you should go home. And she is very realistic with them here. And at this point, scholars kind of diverge on how you should interpret this. One way is that Naomi is inherently evangelistic. Like, she does want Ruth and Orpah to come to the true God, but she's showing them that this is going to be hard. Like, it is not going to be an easy road ahead of them. Multiple times she tells them, turn back. Others say, no, this shows just more the nitty gritty of life. And that Naomi was just telling them, like, look, go, like, I can't help you. This isn't like an evangelism thing. There's no better motive for this other than like, look, seriously, I want you guys to have a good life and I can't give that to you. I think those are both equally valid, and whatever one you come to, I think that's perfectly fine. But I do think it is very interesting that she kind of mirrors Jesus in that. Whereas when Jesus would talk to people and they would say like, yeah, Jesus, we want to follow you, he'd be like, are you sure you're ready? Because it's going to be hard. And so we see a bit of that dynamic at play here. And if that is what Naomi's doing, she's in very good company. And then what I want to zero in on here is Ruth's reaction, because we see is that Orpah leaves, but it says Ruth clings. And they contrast these two characters very, very strongly. While Orpah does what makes sense and she does what is good for her and she returns to her people, Ruth, her reaction's very different. We find her reaction in verses 14 through 18, and they read like this. Then they lifted up their voices and wept again, and Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her. It's a real strong contrast there. It goes on, and she said, see, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods, returned after your sister-in-law. But Ruth said, do not urge me to leave you or return from following you. For where you go, I will go, and where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord do so to me, and more also if anything but death parts me from you. And when Naomi saw she was determined to go with her, she said no more. What we see here in Ruth is a fierce resolve to be loyal to her mother-in-law. You see, today in our society, we're so often to be plagued by fear of missing out or fear of better options, and we live in a time when loyalty is really just deteriorating. We allow ourselves to only be in relationships insofar as we get something out of it. We're often thinking, what is in this for me? And when there ceases to be something in it for us, well then, we leave. But what we see here is a true case of unselfish loyalty. Ruth is loyal to her mother-in-law, Naomi, when really she has nothing to gain. She's even ready to renounce her people and her gods to follow Naomi's God and to be with Naomi. It's a radical story of a Moabite who would have been an outcast, who would have been considered unclean, who God said, your descendants even to the 10th generation may not be in my assembly. Like, there was real bad blood here. We see that even a Moabite, well, she's willing to follow God, to be a believer in Yahweh. And we find this radical story unfold throughout the book of Ruth. And it all starts right here with Ruth claiming unselfish loyalty to Naomi. And what I want to challenge you with today is that in the midst of this season, specifically right now, we're in this coronavirus time when we're all socially distant, it can be really easy to allow loyalty in our relationships to fade. As we're no longer close to each other in proximity, we lose emotional closeness as well. We slowly just stop reaching out to people. We stay in our little bubbles, we binge watch Netflix, and we do the easy thing, which is to just kind of only think about ourselves. But when we do that, we lose the fabric that holds together so much of our society, which is relationships. Not just any relationships, but self-sacrificial, loving relationships, the kind of relationships we're called to as Christians. We see unselfish loyalty here in the book of Ruth, and I want to challenge you to try to find it in your life as well. Love is saying you first, not me. And that's what unselfish loyalty is all about. Well, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Truly, that means so much to me that you would take the time to watch it. And I just want to say, if you're new to this channel, welcome. This is Gospel Simplicity, where we're passionate about the beautiful simplicity and transformative power of the gospel. If that's something that excites you, I'd encourage you to hit subscribe to become a part of what we're doing here on this channel. To all of you that have been liking, commenting, subscribing, and sharing with your friends, it means so much to me, and you have my sincerest thanks. Seriously, you guys rock. I'm so excited to be doing this new series of videos. I hope you are too. But until next time, be on the lookout for more videos. And as always, go out and love God and love others, because truly, above all else, that will change the world. Peace. Love you guys so much. See you next time.